Hello, how are you today? Most of the country has gotten back to life as it normally is, but the people in the Carolinas, Virginia, and other states in the eastern seaboard, they are not yet back to normal. So we continue to remember them in our prayers, and we want to honor them and mention them every day this week, just like we did last week, and let them know that we are remembering them and supporting them from a distance. So, on to the program. What's it like to run three separate ministries? One to women, one to families and marriage, I should say, and one to the nations. What's it like to speak in Uganda, Vietnam, or India? And what printed materials might you send to someone who's inviting you to speak from that far away? Today's guest is going to tell us all about it. Hi, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and this is Marketers on a Mission. We present marketing tutorials and interviews to help Christian writers and speakers take their message online. This is episode number 132 for must-have printed materials every speaker needs with guest author Terri Clark. Hey, Terri, how are you?
Hi, Patricia. So happy to be here.
It's good to see you. We met, I don't know, was it 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little bit more, at Marlene Bagnall's Philadelphia conference, Christian Writers Conference.
Yes.
And the Lord has kept you busy since then, hasn't He?
He keeps me on my toes.
You're quite accomplished, and you have worked very hard to reach that goal. Share some of your credentials with us, please, quickly.
Well, mostly I've learned everything that I know from the School of Hard Knocks. I don't have a long list of letters behind my name, but God qualifies the called, and that's what He's done for me. I have training in counseling. I have, and that evolved out of my family where my husband and I married and had a blended family, and I wrote a book about that, and I've written quite a number of articles. I used to write a column for one of Lifeway's publications on blended families, so that led into the counseling, and because there's a lot of people out there that are hurting. And then I have no idea why I'm a missionary in Africa, except God put me there. That wasn't my plan. I was happy speaking to women and doing women's ministry when I met this lady that came to one of the Bible studies that I was leading, and she was from Africa, from Uganda, and we talked and became good friends. And the next thing I know, I'm on a plane to Africa. That was in 2001, my first trip over there, and I've been going back ever since, taking teams and doing all sorts of things. We've built a hospital, and we have a child sponsorship program in Uganda to help kids get an education. And then, so between marriage and family ministry here and doing work in Africa, I also do speaking to women. I love ministering to women in churches and individuals, and so I do the speaking as well. So it just keeps me going all the time, and writing, of course.
You may not have a lot of numbers behind your name, but you are very accomplished. The Lord has obviously opened doors and blessed you and others through you. And you belong to several professional organizations that have high standards, and you have met those standards. So you are definitely qualified on all the way around. All the way around. With God's help, you've actually rebuilt your life, haven't you, Terri?
I have. I started out in a very bad place, in a first marriage, ended in divorce after 17 years. I was a single mom with 3 kids and struggling to make ends meet, and just trusting God, and God is faithful. He is always faithful when you put your hope and your trust in Him. And that's what I found. And little by little, God just ordered my steps. And that's what it says. The mind of a man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And that's what He did with me. I had no inkling of an idea that I would ever be in ministry. I was just struggling to take care of my kids. Mm-hmm. And from that, I married my husband and had enough fodder with our blended family to write a book, and it just took off from there.
You say there's a story in one of your books that you created a sanctuary over onto including a gray chair. Tell us about that.
The old gray chair. When I first became a Christian, that was my sanctuary. We had this old 1950s knobby rough nylon chair, this couch and chair. But in the living room, I had that chair in the corner. And after I put my kid to bed, my little boy at the time, I got down on my knees and I just talked to Jesus. And that was my place. He was my best friend. I could tell him anything. And I believed everything he said in his word. And if he did it for someone in the Bible, he'd do it for me. And I had that faith that could move mountains. And he did move mountains for me. And I think that's why I went back in my book. I wrote in Fanning the Flame, I want to get that ignited faith back again. I want that zeal. And, many of us, when we get into Christian work, we get so busy that God becomes something on a to-do list.
Yes. Yes.
We get up in the morning, we read our Bible, we say our prayers, we go down our list and then, check that off and go on to the next thing, rather than really seeking that intimate relationship with him. And
it's very, very easy for our work for him to supersede our relationship with him, isn't it?
Exactly. And I wanted to get that place back. I said, whatever happened to my old gray chair?
Mm-hmm.
After all these years, what happened to that place? And so I began a spiritual pilgrimage to get that place back again, to find that intimacy once again and reignite that flame.
I can hear it in your voice. It's back.
And God never leaves us. He says, a smoldering wick I will not extinguish, and a bruised reed I will not break. When we get to that place, it's still there. We just have to fan it a little bit. And sometimes we have to do some real self-examination to find out what it is that has caused that flame to die out. Is there sin somewhere in our life, or is there something that is blocking it? One of the things that God showed me when I was writing this book was the old biblical version of a lamp, the clay lamp. And I looked it up on the internet, and I found that the lamps back then were just little small clay bowls, and they could fit right in the palm of your hand. And they had a spout on one end, and they just filled it with plain olive oil, and they laid a piece of flax in it for a wick. And they would carry it from room to room like a flashlight. Mm-hmm. And the Lord showed me that we are like that little lamp. We are clay vessels, fragile, and we have a purpose, and the purpose is to bring light. But in order for that to happen, it has to be filled with oil. But the oil and the lamp together are not enough to bring the light. You have to have a conduit. You have to have something to bring that light up to the surface. And that's the wick, and I call that our faith. And in order for what's inside of us to come back out and to be ignited by God, we have to make sure that it has a clear flow of what's inside. And I went to the craft store and I bought some modeling clay, the kind that you can fire, and I baked it, and I followed all the directions, and I made my own little lamp, and I poured kitchen olive oil in there, and I didn't have any flax, so I used a piece of terry cloth, and I made my own little lamp and lit it, and it worked, and it burned perfectly. But after just a few minutes, the wick started to get black and smoldery, and I realized I needed to trim my wick. And that's where the Holy Spirit started speaking to me. What are the things I need to trim away? And I was speaking with a rabbi one time, and he was telling me that the sons of Aaron, that was their purpose, was to keep the wick trimmed, to keep that old charred stuff out so that the light always burned bright. And that's what we need to do. We need to look, what are the things that are causing my wick to smolder? What are the things that are keeping that flame from being bright and people in fulfilling my purpose in bringing light into the world, because Jesus said you're the light of the world. Mm-hmm. So I had to look.
Yeah, and you are even interested in this on a one-on-one basis, because you take regular trips to the Holy Land, and aren't you putting one together right now?
I'm taking a group, and if anyone wants to come, I need some more people. I would love for you to join me. It is going to be a phenomenal trip. Now, I'm no Perry Stone and that can get out here and speak, but I do have a Messianic Jew who is our tour guide, and he is amazing. He uses the scriptures, and he loves Israel. He's Jewish, so he brings the Jewish element, things you don't even know if you're not Jewish. And then he also brings the Christian element because he loves Jesus. And I'm telling you, it is going to be a phenomenal trip. January 15th through the 24th, and you can register all the way till the end of the month. I've extended the deadline all the way to the end of September.
End of September. Okay. And viewers, if you're interested in this or anything else that we're talking about today, I always put resources mentioned in this episode above the video after all the links, all the pertinent links, immediately after the episode airs. So don't feel like you have to capture everything this very minute. It's already prepared for you. Now, Terri, I'm going to check Facebook, and while I'm doing that, see if we have any comments or questions.
Okay.
Tell us, you became a Christian in 74 and then answered God's call in 94. Now you're the president of an international ministry, which is just crazy to my ears, with 3 branches. How does that exactly work? You're only one person. How does that work?
And not to mention, I have 16 grandchildren and a big family. You know, when you have a blended family with 6 kids, they multiply. But yeah, I cook Sunday dinner after church every Sunday, and we may have 15 or 20 around our table. But you know, God equips us. He is so good, and it's just, for me, part of life. I mean, I do Uganda as God, brings the resources. We have our sponsorship program, and I work with some wonderful people in Uganda, and I have a wonderful assistant here in the U.S. that helps me. She kind of maintains and runs the sponsorship program. We have a hospital over there, and I have good people in Uganda, and we partner in ministry. It's not my ministry. It's not their ministry. It's God's. And so he provides and he does it. So we do that, and then speaking and writing, you just try to schedule your time. What can I say?
You certainly
everybody watching this probably has a similar story.
You certainly make it sound easy. But as you say, I know that he is helping you help other people, shoring you up so that you can tell his good news.
Yes.
He's a good God. We have a few comments. Robbie Hanvey Pink says she has family and friends in both of the areas that you mentioned. It's so sad what's happening there. Ethel Lighton says, hello. Thanks very much for being here, Robbie and Ethel. Appreciate it very much. Let's talk a little bit more about, you have another entire program that's under the umbrella of one of the 3 ministry branches, Ray of Hope Outreach Sponsorship Program.
Yes,
Tell us what that does and how we can help.
Well, when I went to Uganda, I spotted a little girl who, she was playing in the street. She was school age, and I asked my friend Monique that I work with over there, and I said, Monique, why is this little girl not in school? And she says, well, school's not free, and her parents are very poor. They can't afford it. And so I started looking into it and realized that many children, what happens is the parents really value education because that's their ticket out of poverty. But if they can't afford it, what they do is they send their child to school. They pay just a little bit, and they promise to pay the rest. And when they can't pay it, the child gets chased away from school. And then they get further and further behind, or else they just don't get to go at all. So what we did was we started a child sponsorship program to help kids go to school. And that's what our program is about. It's not about, like some of these other programs are about supporting them and buying food and all of that. We do some of that, but the main thing that we're concerned with is helping children go to school. And we have had more than 500 children go through our program. They've come out in every vocation to support themselves. And now some of those are actually sponsoring children because they know the value. But once they're in school, they work hard, they try really hard, and they don't have to worry about being chased away, and they can really focus on their studies. So we have a really wonderful sponsorship program, and people can go to my website and find a child. They're all listed there. They can pick a child out, or if you're not wanting to do that, you can always just contact me, and I will.
I don't think that's me.
I thought I had the sound turned off. Sorry.
That's okay. It happened.
That's that life, we were talking about. anyway, we have children listed, but if they don't want to go find a child, they can always just contact me, and we'll find a needy child for them, and they carry them through their school years, and then once they graduate from school, once they get finished with senior six, then they can either choose another child or whatever. But we work with Ugandans over there, and right now my assistant is in Uganda. She spends a month every other year verifying the children, make sure they're in school, see how they are, update pictures. And what makes us a little different than other programs is our children actually send gifts to their sponsors. When Tracy goes over there, my assistant, she comes back with suitcases full of little gifts because of the appreciation that these families have for their child's education. And so you might get a little basket or a little purse or a handmade toy or something. And so it's pretty neat. And they write letters about 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh my goodness, that sounds very heartwarming to have a tangible way of a tangible form of gratitude. I'm sure it's colorful and
yeah, and they get to know them. They get to a relationship built with them because they write letters back and forth, and they send gifts back and forth. And they grow up. We've had sponsors that have carried their children all the way through university because they've become part of their family. So it's interesting, and it is a blessing for these families.
Well, we have another comment.
When you think that they might not ever do anything except sell tomatoes on the side of the road, it's amazing when they come out and they're now selling insurance and sponsoring their little brother and little sister,
Okay, that just warms me all over just hearing that description. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity. We have another comment from author Janet McHenry. She says, "Hey, ladies, I just got new professional stationery, letterhead, envelopes, business cards, thank you notes, return address labels, and so forth. Looking forward to knowing if there's something else I need." Yes, there's some of the other things that, let me back up. Terry's going to talk about just a couple of other things that you may very well be interested in knowing about, Janet. So glad to see you here. Let's see, we talked about the program. All right, speaking. You started speaking in your home church in Arkansas way back in 94, and now you're in Vietnam, Myanmar, I think I just said that, India. I just can't think of. It's like the whole side of the globe.
Yes.
How does that work for you? Was that a straight path, or did Lord take you?
Actually, my ministry is mainly in Uganda. That is where my focus is. That's where I'm based. As far as our sponsorship program, our hospital, and I take teams over there about every year or every other year. And so that's where my main focus is. But I have a good friend in ministry as well, and their focus is in Southeast Asia. So often when they do a conference, a teaching conference or something, they'll invite me to go. And so I've traveled with them. So their ministry is in Myanmar, India, mostly Myanmar and Vietnam, but we've also been to India and to China and other places as well.
Okay, so you're traveling with her.
Yes.
And still serving people afar, but your main home base is in Uganda.
It's in Uganda.
Okay, good. Nancy Daniels Anderson says, "Hey, Terry, great to see you fanning the flame." I thought we had one more. Yes, we have one more. Oh, no, that's not applicable, so we will move on. Let me get back over to you because I'm balancing the two screens.
No problem.
And so let's talk about your writing. You've written 2 books, and one of them twice, or did you just repackage the very first one? I know that you released it twice. Did you rewrite it as well?
I revised it. I updated it because it was originally published by Broadman and Holman in 2004. That was before the internet. That was before, a lot of that had taken off. And so when it went out of print after 4 or 5 years. And so when I came out with Fanning the Flame, my second book, I wanted to have the other book available. And so I revised it and updated it and then republished it, with a new cover. So it's all been revamped, but now it's also available in ebook and print. So
Fanning the Flame was released just about this time last year. And the first one that you've revised and released a second time is Tying the Family Knot. Can you tell us what that's about?
Tying the Family Knot, Meeting the Challenges of a Blended Family. That's the subtitle. It is for people who get married with kids and they just don't know how to do this as a Christian. How do I, as a Christian, deal with all of these hard emotional issues? And I mean, it is emotional when you're talking about your kids. Those are your heartstrings. And when you come together, there's bound to be some conflict. There's bound to be some stress and a lot of outside influences and other things that really challenge you. And you're newlyweds. You know, you're just getting to know one another and you're just coming together as a husband and wife. You haven't really bonded everything, and you've got all of this outside stuff that you have to deal with as well. So how do I, as a Christian? So I took the lessons God taught me in blending my family. When my husband and I married, we each had 3 children, and so we became the Brady Bunch. And I had a difficult, he had a difficult ex-wife. I call her my ex-wife, but that we had to deal with, and a lot of emotional issues there. And then my husband was one of those that just was gone. Never a word, never a letter, never a card, no phone calls, nothing. And so so there were issues on both sides that we had to deal with the children. And so what I do in this book is address those things, but I have a lot of funny stories. I have a lot of, I tell on myself a lot because I was angry for 3 years and I had to deal with a lot of things back then. But it's an easy read. It's very engaging, and I think that it will help anyone in a blended family to find their way, to maneuver their way through it.
Mm-hmm. You got some great reviews on that. Yeah, people talking about how it would help across the board, just relationship principles in general as well. Yeah. That's how they took it.
I bring biblical principles to every chapter, and so like adding, how there's the parable of the unshrunk cloth, sewing a piece of new cloth on an old garment. Wow. Well, that's the way it is when a step parent comes in and tries to discipline his stepchildren. He's like that brand new piece of denim being sewed into an old worn pair of jeans that's comfortable and maybe has a hole. But before he can be accepted in that position, he has to go through a few washings, before he can get put in there. And just bringing that biblical principle, how do I do that? So that's what I talk about is how do you, as a Christian, deal with this? And a lot of times it's just common sense and biblical sense, bringing it together.
I'm hearing that both of your books are filled with biblical scripture, biblical principles, great applications, good stories that are going to resonate with the reader. And one is calling us to have a better relationship with Christ. The other one is calling us to have a better relationship with our children and our spouse.
Exactly.
That pretty much covers it all, doesn't it? As far as that determines the quality of our life. Those relationships determine the quality of our life, don't they?
And it's not about it's not about me. It's about what does he say in his word? His word is so full. It's so rich. And there are answers for all of those issues in the scriptures if we just take a little look, a little deeper. And we want everything so quick now. We want everything fast food. Give me a podcast or give me a YouTube video or give me something quick and easy, rather than really taking the time to engage with Jesus and let him teach you through the Holy Spirit and his word. That's what we need to do.
Relationships are not quick and easy. There never has been one like that. Not a true relationship.
No. That's true.
Let me check and see if we've got anything else going on over here. I don't want to miss anybody's comments. Excuse me. Tell me one more time while I'm looking. When is let's go back to the trip again. When is it? January?
January 15th through the 24th. This coming January the 15th through the 24th. And it's phenomenal. The itinerary, everything is on the link that you're going to be sharing.
Okay. And you have extended the sign-up period until the end of September.
Yes.
Which is less than 2 weeks away.
No, I actually have until the 1st of October, but if someone gets their deposit in by then they don't have to pay for the whole thing until November 15th. So they've got a little time.
Okay. That's good to know.
It's definitely a trip worth taking. I mean, you will not read the scriptures the same.
Mm.
I mean, there was one instance while I was there, just riding in the bus, the tour guide happened to mention, oh, this is where the demons were cast out of the demoniac, at the Gadarenes. And I'm like, how does he know that? And he says, well, it's because this is the Sea of Galilee. That's the Jewish side over there. This is the Gentile side. This is the only slope that runs into the water. And there are graves up here, and that everything in the scripture points, this is the only place it could be. I'm like, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
And I never even knew there was a Jewish side or a Gentile side to the Sea of Galilee, but there are. And he said he would have come across the lake in the boat, just like it says in the scriptures. He'd have gone here. And, you just see it come alive. But that was just a tiny little inkling. There's so much more. Taking communion at the Garden of Gethsemane, or at the Garden Tomb, and taking communion there, getting baptized in the Jordan River. I mean, there's just so much. It's very worthwhile.
How often do you do this?
Well, this is going to be my first group to take, so I'm excited.
But you've gone
this will be my maiden voyage on this trip. Now, I have been, but this is the first time. I'm so excited about it. I had to take a group, and so I said, okay, we're going to do this. We're just going to go.
That makes it even more special, doesn't it?
Yes.
The very first time. To be the host.
Yes.
Great. Excuse me. Now, you have told us a lot, and you also have something else to share, and that is the printed materials. And I'm going to do a screen share. You've forwarded them to me already, so I'm going to do a screen share, and then you can talk about them as we go forward. Is that right?
That's fine.
It takes me just a second to arrange that. There we go. Here we are. Now you should be able to see that, can you?
Yes, I can see. This is a brochure, and it's two-sided. There is one side, and it's a trifold. So on the inside, it has everything that you can list your topics with some illustrations. But on the outside, it has your contact information, and it has your right in the very back, that's basically who am I? Who are you? Since 1994, author, speaker Terri Clark brought a broad scope. So it kind of goes down and tells a little bit about me, what I do, where I've been, and what my style of speaking is. Attending, what can they expect? What can they come away with? They want to know that. Yeah. On the back, there's all the contact information about how long the average presentation is, but it can be tailored to their own group. And then the contact information, I always have my logo on the bottom, and the front just kind of is like a whetting your appetite, exciting, fun, life impacting, practical and biblical, and every age. It help for women of every age and every walk of life. I don't want to limit myself to blended families. I don't want to limit myself to a certain age group. So I say this is all inclusive, whether you're divorced, a businesswoman, a young mother, whatever, God has something for you. And so going on,
this is the inside.
On the inside, I've got the two books. Now that's the old cover on there. I have to update that. But for blended families, for marriage and family, and then Fanning the Flame, my new book, and then a sampling of topics. Some of the topics I've done, I found some good illustrations and did just a little synopsis of each one. Mm-hmm. So if there's an event planner that's looking for a speaker, this kind of gives them an idea of what you do, and they may not want anything on here, but it may tweak their thinking and think, oh, well, maybe they can do something like this, and then they'll talk to you about it. Excuse me. But having this available so that you don't want to be caught talking to someone, making a connection, and then have nothing to send them except for, an email, oh, I do this, I do that. It'd be nice to have a very professional looking, that professional materials. Now, you can use this at your book table. Whenever you're out speaking, you can send it with a book. If you've got a book, stick one in there. You may find that someone's interested. you can use them in any number of ways, but it's good to have it available. Now, this one coordinates with everything else that I have in the same color scheme. I use the same picture and color scheme so that you can tell they're all similar. And it's kind of you just kind of let that theme run through. You don't want to have something bright red and then have something else that looks completely different in yellow and something else in blue and something else in green. It's just a hodgepodge. But everything is cohesive. Everything works together.
And can we make the point not only about
Excuse me.
That's right. You need to take a drink? Take your time.
Go ahead.
Not only about the speaker's brochure, but everything that we're talking about today. It's possible to send all of those things digitally, but sometimes it's best, as you say, to put it in a book, to actually physically hand it to someone. And if you only have it in digital format, it sort of puts you in a loop. You might have missed an opportunity that a printed material you could have placed right in their hand, and then they go on their way and contact you later. Is that right?
That's right. And you want it to be quality. You want to show them I'm not a fly-by-night, that I am a quality speaker. And so this particular brochure, I took it down to the printer and I had it printed on nice quality paper in a glossy with a glossy kind of a finish. And it looks and feels very nice. It's already folded. So I have a package of them so I can just grab them as I need them. But being in the digital format, just like I sent it to you, I can just send you the file and you have it. And so if there's someone that's interested in what you're doing, you don't have to wait for snail mail. You don't have to be at the event. You can just fire it off in an email. And I try to have all of my materials in both formats.
Yes, I think that's so wise. Now that we've got the one sheet, let me reduce this a little bit. And then for those who are wondering, especially you, Janet, we've got a sell sheet. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, a sell sheet. This is a speaker's one sheet right here.
Yeah. Okay, let me go with the one sheet first. It is basically a mini bio of you. So, but it's colorful. It grabs the attention rather than just a bunch of words on a piece of paper. People are very visual, and something that will grab the attention. Like you can see, I found little icons. A speaker, I used a microphone. Author, I used a feather, like a quill. And a missionary, I put across on the world. And that just kind of shows these are the three elements of my ministry. And then a scripture with my picture. And across the top under my name, I put qualifications: Christian women speaker, author, missionary, step family expert, AACC, biblical counselor, and Christian life coach. So they can see that those are the qualifications. This is what this tells a little bit more in detail, a scripture. And then below the scripture is someone who gave a reference, gave
testimonial.
Yes.
Okay.
Where it says, Nancy Pennington. She's an international missions leader. And so she wrote a few words about me. So there's an endorsement there. And then contact information, email, website, and address, along with my logo. So all of it fits on one piece of paper. You don't want it to be pages and pages long. You need it to be one single sheet of paper to take with you. And when I did when we met and at the writers conference, I use this quite a lot. The one sheet and then also the sell sheet, if you want to flip over to that. It's very similar. The sell sheet actually is for editors, for agents, for someone that might be interested in publication. Now, at the writers conference I went to, in Pennsylvania, I had not yet sold my book. I was pitching it. I was trying to find a buyer for it, and I was looking for an agent, for a literary agent at the time. And what I did not have a full-blown book proposal prepared yet. But I was at the writers conference, so there was no time to get it all. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time to get a full-blown book proposal. But I know what elements need to be on it, so I put those elements on this sell sheet. And at the top, you can see, if you'll scroll down just a little, Fanning the Flame. It has the title. It has those same credentials that were on the other one. And then it tells what this book is about in one sentence. It takes burned out Christians on a pilgrimage to reignite their spiritual lamps with a fresh, empowering faith, a faith that will stand in time of testing. So that's in a nutshell what this book is. Then it tells nonfiction / Christian living. And some of them, on one of them, I put also another slash that says 50,000 words because they need to know the size of the book. And then I know the size of the book.
Yes.
And then from there, what is written below that in that big block is what is on the back of the book in a time of testing, And then further on down, it says, it tells you what you can expect to get from the book and what it does. It identifies and addresses the issues most affecting a believer's spiritual flame. And then I go on to say what those things are. Below that.
Excuse me, this is your back cover copy right here. Am I understanding that?
Yes. If you look on the back of my book, that top paragraph is on the back of the book.
That's okay, there we go. This is your back cover copy.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, of course, the contact information again is there. And then a mini bio that's just off. This is what qualifies me to write the book. Author, and it tells me books, articles, and blog, just real small, all the, just in a nutshell, what my writing credentials are. And then speaker, engaging in faith challenging, and it says how long I've been speaking and what kind of speaking I do. And then missionary, building faith in the nations. And then that tells a little bit about my mission work. So in one sheet of paper, I have a mini book proposal. And that's what I used with when I went to the writers conference, I took 2 polished chapters of my book, may have been 3. And then I took that cell sheet and my bio sheet along with, I think I had a synopsis of the chapters written out. And that was it. And I got an agent. So that was God. Pardon me.
That's right. You hold on just a second, catch your breath, and I'll mention what that the 2 things about all of these again. That is, these printed materials are not designed to answer every question. They're designed to be a conversation starter or a point of reference. They're showing people that you're talking to in person or through the mail or various places that you have a cohesive visual look. You know what you're about. This is your contact information. This is your message, and that you are a professional.
Yes. And also, my business card coordinates with it. It also has my logo. Now, some people say you should have your picture on it. You can if you like, but for me, I just did basically the same color scheme with basically the same information. And it's just, all it says is Terri Clark, speaker, author, missionary. And then at the top, touching the world with demonstrated faith. Just a tagline. And so that coordinates with all of the rest of my material. Everything I have, and I'll just hold them up together.
That'd be great.
Have them here. So you can see the cell sheet, the one sheet, the brochure, and my business card. They all coordinate. They're all in my favorite color. You see, I'm even wearing it today. Turquoise. So
and your water glass is the same color. While I'm checking Facebook, just
come across as a professional.
I apologize. I talked over you. What did you say?
I said you want to come across as a professional. Now, these materials I created myself on my home computer. I did not hire anyone. There are lots of programs that you can get. If you have a Mac, I think you can get Pages or one of those that you have different templates that you can use. And then you just set your color scheme and you can just play with it. Don't be afraid to do something different. Like on this one, my name is vertical. We don't always think to do something like that, but on one of the templates, it was like that. And I thought, hey, I like that look.
I like it too.
It doesn't take up as much room, and it changes the interest, so it makes it more interesting to look at. And also different shades of the same color. You see there's different shades here overlapping. And sometimes you just play with it and you can come up with a really nice design. And if you're not creative like that, get a friend or somebody that is and sit down together. What do you want to say? And just make sure your information is spell checked and double checked for grammar. Make sure there's no typos. Make sure that it stands out like you want it to, because it can. I was in a meeting this morning and they had a PowerPoint up and they were talking about someone being your closest friend. And then instead of saying closest, it said closet, being a closet. I'm like, it totally changed the meaning, you know. If your eyes don't see it, someone else's will pick it up.
Yes.
So it's always good to have a second person come along and prove it for you. And that's with anything that you write.
Yes, true. It's almost time for us to close, but before we do, I want to check Facebook one more time. And while I'm doing that, would you hold up both of your books so we know? Because one is still on Amazon with the former. This is the new title, the new cover.
Yeah, it's the same title. It's just a new look. It's the revised version, the upgraded. And then this is Fanning the Flame. Fanning the Flame, reigniting your faith in God, tying the family knot, meeting the challenges of a blended family.
And I love all of those titles, and those subtitles were really on point. Janet McHenry has several questions and comments. Okay. She asks, when would you use brochures? We may have already answered that, but can you go back over that in case we didn't? It seems that all contact is occurring online now, which is a valid point.
Yeah, I use these brochures. Everything that I send out has one of these in it. Whether it's for a speaking engagement or not, you never know. And it does have a lot of information in it. I use those on my book table. I mail them out, and I have them on my computer where I can just send it. If someone's inquiring about something, I always just send it to them. You use your judgment, but having it available is the main thing. If you have nothing available, you're stuck.
Yes.
And I've been there. I've been stuck. That's why I have them.
And this is not something you want to throw together in 30 minutes and send it off to somebody else.
No. That's why I say have it ready to go.
Janet also says that she used to have a brochure or a one sheet, but all of her speaker info is on a page on her website now with lots more detail. And there's a couple of other things. She says, thanks very much. You answered my question. Yay! I'll design one to include in books and have on my book tables now. So
right.
That's good.
It's good to have it. You need to have it on your website and on your Facebook page and all that. But it is good to have a separate document that you can just do a PDF file that can't be changed, and then just send it off to them, and they can print it out if they need to.
She also mentioned that Vistaprint. You took it to your local printing shop, right?
For the brochure, I took that to the print shop. Now I use Vistaprint for my cards.
Okay.
These parts.
She was suggesting.
Do not get the homemade printout kind, because they look cheap and they feel cheap, and you can tell they're homemade, and that communicates to anyone you're handing it to that you're not professional.
Yes.
So you want to make sure you've got to spend a little bit of money and get a good card.
I agree, and they last a long, long time. You've got your basics on there; they don't change very often. Some of them, not that I've seen lately, but years ago, I would see them from Vistaprint, and it was the handmade one that you were mentioning. You print it out, and you pop them apart, and then they would have the paper tags all the way around. You're like, oh, all right. You have shown us so much, and it's practical, helpful, applicable to what we're talking about. The sell sheet, I had heard of those. I had seen one or two of those, but not very many, and I had never heard them called that. So handy.
When I had a publicist for when my book was released, and she actually liked the sell sheet so much she used it in the press kit.
Good.
So, which is that tells me that she's professional, and that tells me that it was worth doing.
Yes, absolutely. Let me see if we have anything over here. No. Here we are. All right. We have covered the gamut, haven't we?
You sure have.
That's what we're supposed to do.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Terri, for joining me.
It's been a blast. Thank you, Patricia.
You are doing great things for God. He's opening doors for you. And viewers, once again, all of the resources that we mentioned today are going to be posted right immediately after we get finished with this episode, right above the video. And if you happen to be watching the replay instead, those will be below the video with someone sharing that replay with you. Thank you very much again, Miss Terri.
Thank you.
You might need to come back another time and tell us about how your Holy Land visit was, because we might want to hear that.
I would love to do that. And maybe I'll have a third book ready.
Oh, Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. We want to hear. We want to hear. Thank you also, viewers, for being with us. This has been episode number 132 for must-have printed materials every speaker needs with guest author Terri Clark. Tomorrow, writer Annette Marie Griffin tells us how God turned a Christmas gift to her first writers' conference into a contract for her book and an agent. I'm interested in that. I know you are too. We're here every weekday at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. This program is designed to help you learn the craft of writing from professional writers and also to help you market your message online because that's where your audience is. Until tomorrow, Terri Clark and I wish you a good afternoon.